Thank you, Howard, and welcome to Jazz on My Mind, Coast to Coast. I'm Richard Blackwell. This is the show that is dedicated to jazz lovers around the world. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m., 7 o'clock Pacific time, we bring you jazz events from Los Angeles to New York, along with performances of the legends, current and upcoming jazz stars. And get ready, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great jazz show ready for you tonight. With us this evening is a live performance from vocalist Lynda Selena Smalls. Also with us is jazz legend, saxophone great, Mr. Larry Williams. Plus, we've got an outstanding video performance from that smooth jazz group, Anaya. But first, let's welcome him back. He's a regular on the show. From radio station WVUD, which is 91.3 FM. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome radio personality Steve Leech to Jazz on My Mind.
Hi, Richard.
Steve, good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too.
Haven't seen you since last week when we were at the wonderful Boise Lowry tribute.
That was quite an event, yes, and quite enjoyable.
Excellent show. And for the audience who have not been following us, unfortunately, last Saturday was an outstanding performance by all of the great local jazz groups as they paid tribute to an outstanding mentor and teacher, instructor, Boise Lowry.
Yeah, it was quite an event, and I think just about everybody was a student of Boise's at one point or another.
Yeah, it was a great show.
So it gave a good sense of his contribution to see it all up there on the stage.
Yeah,
yes. And I'm glad I was able to make it.
It was, and it had to be at least 30-something plus musicians that was brought together by the Council of Jazz Advocates, who decided it was time to pay tribute to the wonderful Boise Lowry.
And I hope they do it again.
Yeah, it was an outstanding tribute.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm glad you're back because you've been on the show quite a few times. It's always fun to talk about jazz here in Wilmington, Delaware. Since I've been doing my show here in 2009, I call Wilmington the jazz capital of the world.
Well, it has a long history of jazz, and there are a lot of legends who've come from Wilmington, Clifford Brown, of course, and Lem Winchester and others. Betty Roche was born just over here.
Right.
And there are others, Gerald Price, who played with people like Sonny Stitt and Richie Cole. And with Lem Winchester, who's also a native Wilmingtonian. And their spirits are still here, I think.
Yeah, I felt it when I first arrived, and I'm feeling it every day. And it's an absolute pleasure to be able to intermingle with these wonderful musicians. We've got one coming up in a little bit. Saxophone legend Larry Williams is coming on the show. Yeah,
Larry is a regular on my radio program, and he has a great collection of 78s besides playing a pretty mean sax. And a lot of his music is quite rare, the recordings. We are probably one of the few radio stations, if not the only one, to actually play 78s.
Wow.
And it's nice to have an inventory of those recordings to play. A lot of them you can only find on 78. So, and he'll be with me. I think we are on every second Saturday of the month.
You guys are going to be on this coming Saturday.
That's right.
In fact, let's talk about your radio show. You're on WVUD.
That's right.
Which is 91.3 FM.
Yes.
And recently, the radio station added some wattage so that you can be heard all throughout the Delaware area.
That's true. We were only 1,000 watts before, and we couldn't really adequately cover the county. Areas of northern Newcastle County, north of Wilmington, were problematic, as well as below the canal, the C&D Canal. But now we are heard all throughout Newcastle County. We're taking a survey of an informal survey of around the world. We have a map with push pins on it, and we're getting a good sense of what our listening pond, I call it a pond because it looks like a pond, is. And to use another analogy, it kind of looks like a peanut, you know. We cover the northern part of Newcastle County, and we get into Kent County now, and we've even been heard in Philadelphia. Wow. My sister, who visited recently, drove back along the New Jersey Turnpike and got us up in Cherry Hill.
That's beautiful, because the music that you play, in fact, your jazz show, your jazz program is called Bop Time.
That's right.
And that's where you play a lot of vintage music from a lot of artists you just mentioned, Clifford Brown, Winchester, and so on.
That's right. I try to find the little gems out there. Recently, I found a couple of recordings that I didn't know existed by a singer by the name of Bricktop, who you probably never heard of.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah, well, she had red hair.
Oh, okay.
And she was an American who went to Paris and opened a club in Paris during the Lost Generation years. It was frequented by a lot of Lost Generation types. She was a friend of Cole Porter, and didn't do a lot of recording, but she was quite a character in Paris and then later in Italy after the war. And I didn't know that there were any recordings of her. I saw her on television back in the early 60s on a program called The Les Crane Show. And she came on and sang Miss Otis Regrets, which was actually written for her by Cole Porter.
Yeah, that's an interesting tidbit right there.
That is. And she had quite an interesting voice.
Now, let me ask you, on WVUD, you're playing a lot of great jazz. Is there any artist that Steve Leech loves playing the most? Which artist is the dearest? Which artist is dearest to your heart?
Well, I have weak spots. I like Percy Mayfield.
Okay.
Think he's a great poet of rhythm and blues. I also have a weak spot for Rose Murphy, who was also called the Chi-Chi Girl because she always had this very high voice with this improvisational style. She seemed to really enjoy playing her music, and was a great pianist. She was a gal who was almost a one-man band because as she played the piano, she would stamp her foot and keep the rhythm. So you thought there was a drum there somewhere, but it was Rose Murphy's foot.
Now, that's interesting.
And she had a few recordings back in the late 40s and early 50s. And I kind of like her. I have a weakness for her as well.
Weak spot for her.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk some more, and we're going to chat with Larry Williams as well. He's going to be coming up in just a couple of minutes. You don't mind stick around and being my co-host for tonight, do you?
Not at all.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, from WVUD 91.3, Steve Leech as my co-host tonight. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present a video performance of one of the hottest music groups around. The group is called Anaya. Now, I got to tell you about this group because coming this Saturday, November 19th, they will release their third CD, and this CD will be called Full Circle. Now, the CD release concert is going to happen here in Wilmington, Delaware, and it's going to be at the Christina Cultural Arts Center, and it's going to be a hot show. And right now we're going to check out a video performance of Anaya, and we're going to see my man Delbert Boyer on guitar, Rob Nelson on drums, Monty Pollard on bass, Mark Mitchell on sax, and Deke Morton on bass. Once again, the group is called Anaya, and the song that you're about to hear is the title track from their new CD called Full Circle. Here is Anaya on Jazz on My Mind. What an outstanding video performance. Once again, the group is called Anaya, and they're going to be performing this Saturday, November 19th, here in Wilmington, Delaware, at the Christina Cultural Arts Center. If you want to get your tickets, you can do so by calling the Blackwell Solution, and our number is area code 302-428-1964. What a great group, Anaya. Well, ladies and gentlemen, coming up, we're going to chat with saxophone great Larry Williams and Steve Leech. But first, it's time for you to get that pen and paper ready, because now is the time for This Week in Jazz on the West Coast. And we're going to start by letting you know what the hot spots are this week in jazz, and it's all on the West Coast. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with a brand new spot for jazz in Los Angeles, and it's called Nola's. Now, the good thing about Nola's is not only do they give you some great jazz, but they do it with a touch of New Orleans. NOLA's, you can catch them. They're located at 734 East 3rd Street in Los Angeles. For jazz events and for showtimes, call NOLA's at area code 213-680-3003. Also, another spot for jazz is one of my favorite spots on the West Coast. It's where I used to hang out all those years of learning jazz. It's called the World Stage. They always have some great, exciting jazz performances. You can check out the World Stage. They're located at 4344 Degnan in Los Angeles. For their events and showtimes, you can call the World Stage at area code 323, and the number is 293-2451. And also for jazz, you cannot forget about the Catalina Bar and Grill. They've always got some great jazz happening there. You can check them out this weekend at the one and only Catalina Bar and Grill. Their address 6725 Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. Now you can get a hold of the Catalina Bar and Grill by calling area code 323, and the number is 466-2210. Call them for more jazz information. And the Midwest has some great jazz spots as well. Like in Cleveland, Ohio, they've got an excellent spot for jazz called Nighttime. They're located at 12387 Cedar Road in Cleveland, Ohio. You can call them by reaching area code 216 and the number 795-0550. And can't forget about Chi-Town when it comes to jazz. Chicago has a great jazz spot called the Green Mill Cocktail Lounge. They've always got some great jazz happening. They're located at 4802 North Broadway in Chicago. You can call them for events and showtime at area code 773, and the number is 873-5552. And if you're in St. Louis looking for some great jazz, they've got a wonderful spot called Jazz at the Bistro. They're located at 3536 Washington in St. Louis. To find out more about them, just log on to their website, which is jazzatthebistro.com. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, for all jazz events from Los Angeles to New York, just log on to our jazz website, which is jazzonmymind.com. Don't move away too far from that pen and paper, because coming up soon, I'm going to give you this week's jazz events for the East Coast. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome saxophone great and music historian, Mr. Larry Williams, to Jazz on My Mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Larry, it's good to see you, man.
Good to be back.
Good to have you on the show. You've been on before. In fact, you and your group, Infinity, performed on the last season.
Yeah, we did. We had a ball doing it.
And ladies and gentlemen, you can see that video. It's archived. Just log on to jazzonmymind.com and look for that wonderful video. Now, Steve and I, Larry, were talking about what happened at the Boise Lowry Tribute last Saturday. You were one of the performers on that show.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think a great time was had by all. It was a wonderful, wonderful concert, and it was a tribute to our mentor and teacher that I think is long overdue.
Yeah, yes indeed. And you played masterfully, you and Infinity. Give the names of the gentlemen who were in that group.
Well, we had Fareed Majid on trumpet, Vernon James on alto sax and flute. Dennis Fortune was with us on the piano.
My friend.
Bill McDaniel was on the bass, and we had Aaron Walker on the drums.
Great performance. Steve, didn't they do an excellent job?
They did, certainly did. Yes.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad to have both of you on here. Number one, Larry, you are, like I introduced you, a tremendous musician. I love watching you play. Your jazz is on point. That's what we call jazz. That's the jazz as we know it. Yeah. And you are on Steve Leech's radio show every other Saturday called Bop Time.
Yeah, well, the segment we do is called Clifford's Corner. I guess you could call me his unofficial co-host.
And I've had the pleasure of being on the show with you too, and I'm telling you, it was wonderful. The jazz knowledge that you gentlemen disseminate to your audience, I think, is outstanding.
Well, a lot of that comes from the recordings that we have. Like Steve was saying, like you guys have been giving me a lot of props on my record collection, and I thank you. I thank you for that. Because well, a lot of that stuff that we play is rare, and a lot of it does have a lot of historical significance to it.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And we've talked on the phone, Steve and I, and you and I. We've talked many times, and I think it's important that you gentlemen are on talking about jazz because the music is there, but we got to keep that history alive and the culture of jazz. Would you gentlemen agree?
Oh yeah, certainly, I would. Yeah, certainly, because there's a lot of that music that you just don't get a chance to hear. Yeah. And if it's not heard or not talked about, then that part of the historical thing just tends to die.
Yeah, yeah. Steve, anything you want to interject with Larry sitting here with us?
Well, you know,
because you guys talk on Clifford's Corner, so here we are in front of the camera with Clifford's Corner.
Right. Well, yeah, I think there's an important segment of that is to keep talking about it because it's easy to forget. You know, I mean, usually it's 2 weeks and people forget what went on 2 weeks before that, and it's a constant flow. I know in this city there was a period of time when jazz kind of disappeared a little bit.
Yeah,
but not completely. You know, it was still there under the surface, and I think that's a good example to us to keep it going because the longer you keep it going, the more you play the music and you talk about the music, the more it really settles in and really becomes part of the community and begins to congeal and you know, really kind of have a cultural presence.
Yeah, it does, definitely does. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Because really, there was, like say around the 70s or 80s, there was a time when jazz wasn't what we think of it today, or like it had been in years, say, the 50s and 60s, when Clifford Brown was alive and Lem Winchester were alive, those people, when they were actively doing the music. We're having what I'd call a renaissance now, you know, as far as music is concerned, you know, and a lot of us are now getting opportunities to play and be heard, and as I always say, I thank you for that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just a pawn here. Because to me, it's a blessing for me to be here in Wilmington, Delaware, because you gentlemen, you musicians, Steve, it appears that you have kind of embraced what I'm doing, and it works so beautifully because it's a win-win situation. Yeah. I get to showcase some outstanding musicians. We get to talk about some tremendous jazz history. You give me some good content for my program. Well, I mean, without you, I'd be sitting here by myself.
And it works both ways.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. And it ties in a lot of things. I think the last time we were on with you, you were asking me about literature, for example. And the city of Wilmington is known for its jazz, but it's also known for its art and its literature.
Right.
And I find that all that kind of really works well together. Jazz and poetry have always, you know, worked well together. You think about the Beats, who used to read with jazz behind them, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I know Harry Spencer has done some work with some, you know, local poets and things like that. So it all kind of happens together, and it really defines us as a cultural presence.
And you know, it's interesting when you mentioned about the poetry, because when Larry was on the show the last season, they performed with a spoken word artist named Sweet Franchon.
Oh yes.
And that was an outstanding performance. She did her poetry while they played their jazz, and it was an excellent combination.
It works real well.
And the great thing about it was all completely impromptu.
Yeah,
we had no idea what we were going to do. No, we didn't rehearse a thing.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of jazz itself. Jazz is very improvisational. It's all very spur of the moment.
Yeah, and I spoke to Sweet Franchon today, and she told me to tell you gentlemen hello as well. She really dug that performance with you. Now, Larry, how long have you been playing the saxophone, Larry?
Well, since I was 14.
Yeah.
But I started on clarinet around the age of 9.
Yeah, and you groove with it. It's like it's a part of your body now.
Well, music has always been a part of me. I've been in music since day one. Really.
Now,
because the thing of it is, before I even got into playing music, I was already listening to it.
Yeah.
Well, that's where that record collection comes in.
Yeah, because he's got an outstanding record collection. Yeah, and there's another gentleman I like to give a lot of props to, is Maurice Sims.
Yes.
Maurice was on the show a couple of weeks ago. Lovable, wonderful young man, former radio personality here for many, many years, and just a lovable guy. And his knowledge of jazz is outstanding.
Yeah, he knows just about everyone, or at least touch bases with just about everyone in the jazz world. And I don't know exactly what his position was, but I believe he did some booking at the old Oddfellows Temple.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I think he had mentioned that to me as well.
Well, of course, we know he was a DJ.
Yeah. And he's got a wonderful voice as well, great personality.
He is.
Now,
he's a real gem.
Excellent. Now, you two are going to be on the radio pretty soon, right? You're
right.
On every other Talk about, now, it's every other Saturday, is that correct?
No, it's every second Saturday.
Every second Saturday.
And we do about half of the program. The program runs from 6 to 10, and we go on from 8 to 10.
All right.
And we basically just play sides and talk and discover things about the music and let our audiences know what we hear and how we hear it, and any little stories that we might have. Maurice has lots of stories.
Yes, he does.
And it's a great oral history of jazz locally and jazz in general.
Yeah. Now, gentlemen, the good thing about it, ladies and gentlemen, this show is seen around the world. You can listen to Steve Leech's radio show anywhere in the world.
That's right.
Tell them how they can tune into you.
Well, you just go on the internet at wvud.org, and you'll be presented with our website, and it's pretty easy to find. Up in the left-hand corner of the screen, it'll be flashing yellow at you, and click on that. There we are.
Well, I hope, Larry, to get you and Infinity back on this season before we wrap up, because I would love to present your outstanding straight-ahead jazz to the audience again.
I'd love to be back.
All right, and in the meantime, gentlemen, I want to applaud both of you in your plight in keeping jazz alive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, from WVUD, Steve Leech, and also saxophone great, Mr. Larry Williams on Jazz on My Mind. Thank you, gentlemen. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to meet tonight's musical guests. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Lynda, Selena Smalls, also her keyboardist, Jim Holton, and her drummer, Eddie Jones Jr., the Jane Doe Experience, to Jazz on My Mind. All right, glad you guys could make it. We talked to you a couple of weeks ago about coming on and telling and showing us what the Jane Doe Experience was all about, and you're here.
I'm here.
You ready to?
I'm absolutely ready.
You ready, huh?
Yeah, I'm
now,
ready.
Lynda, when we talked before, your background musically is astounding. You started singing in the church as a young lady, young girl.
Right.
You worked your way up. You've appeared with a lot of tremendous musicians. And what I really admire about you is you gave your time to the servicemen, going overseas and singing at some of the USO
Right, on the DOD tours.
Yeah, how was that for you?
It's a way to see the world. That
And didn't have to pay for it.
didn't have. Well, we paid. Flying on hops is not fun.
Yeah, that's not.
So,
let me tell you, that's, you just took
not
me
going
back
first
a little
class.
bit. Yeah.
Strap in, buckle
Yeah.
up. But it gave me an opportunity to see places that normally you wouldn't go to.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was good.
Now,
It was good.
I said that you started singing as a young lady.
Mm-hmm.
Who were some of the influences that you had in your singing career?
Boy, many.
Give us a couple.
I'd say Sarah
Yeah.
Vaughan, Dakota Stanton,
Yeah.
Etta James, Ella Fitzgerald,
Yeah.
Etta Jones. The list goes on and on and on.
And it brought you
Yeah.
to where you are today.
Yeah.
Now, these two gentlemen you have with you, I already introduced them, but this is Jim. And Jim, how you doing tonight, Jim?
Doing very well now that I'm here.
Richard. You can grab the mic. Jim, you are Lynda's keyboardist. How is it playing for such an outstanding vocalist?
Well, you just said it. It's outstanding.
How long have you been
We have
playing?
a lot of fun.
And how long have you been playing?
I've been playing a long time. I heard Steve mention Gerald Price, and
Yeah.
Gerald Price goes back to when I was around 15, 16, 17 years old. He was one of my formative piano teachers.
Wow, now that's saying something.
He was like a father to me. Anyone who knew Gerald Price knew he was, a mentor to many, many, many people. Too many to, so.
Yeah.
And one of the unsung true heroes of jazz and the piano. You know what I'm talking about, Steve.
Now, Eddie, you're the drummer tonight. And thank you, Jim.
Yes.
Eddie, how long have you been playing the drums?
I'm too embarrassed to say. Man.
Don't be embarrassed, Eddie.
It's been a long time.
Really?
Long time.
I understand you come from a musical family. Your dad was an outstanding musician.
Well, my father played the Reeds, played saxophone in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm not Eddie Jones Jr. though. I'm Eddie Jones. I'm not a junior.
All right, I'm sorry
But
about that.
It's okay. It's okay. But my father played saxophone.
Give your dad's
and
name. What was your dad's name?
Ernie Jones.
Okay.
So he played saxophone and for the service. He was in the service, and then once I came on, after he got married and I came on the scene, then his energy went into raising a family and not playing music. So he kind of passed the baton, so to speak.
So how is it playing with Jim and Lynda?
It's a joy.
You guys have a great time?
It's a lot of fun. I know as soon as I met Lynda, we connected because we connected because we had mutual friends. So, and as far as Jim's concerned, well, we go back at least 30 years.
We're not saying, remember?
Right, that's right.
Do you remember when you guys first met? Do you remember when you first met Eddie and Jim?
Oh no, that's impossible.
Yeah, that's going very far back.
I'm not allowed to say anything.
The
age factor.
Yeah, but it's.
They still had the horse and buggy.
You want pass that mic on down. You only have one mic, unfortunately.
They still had the horse and buggy back then when we first met.
Well, you guys are together. You see, Eddie says, speak for yourself. You guys are together now. You're making some great music. In fact, the Jane Doe Experience. Where did that name come from?
Oh man. Okay, I'll give it up. I was singing in a place that was kind of seedy, and somebody said, "Yeah, you shouldn't be in there." And they called me to the stage, and I'm like, "Shh, Jane Doe." The band said, "That's really funny."
So that's what it is. So you guys,
and it's stuck.
It's stuck. So you guys are going to do some tunes for us tonight?
Yeah, we'll do a couple.
I'm glad you guys were able to make it. I know we had a little trouble getting here.
I'm sorry that Larry didn't bring his horn because that would have been nice to have.
That would have been right
we
on.
are
Yeah.
sorely remiss.
You know what? We got to try to put that together sometime in the future. But I'm glad you guys made it, and we're looking forward to your live performance in just a few minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Jones, also my man Jim, and Lynda, Selena Smalls, Jane Doe Experience. You're going to be checking them out in just a couple of minutes on Jazz on My Mind. All right, don't go anywhere, everyone. Like I said, coming up next is the performance from Lynda, Selena Smalls, the Jane Doe Experience. But before we do that, it's time to grab that pen and paper because I've got this week's jazz events for This Week in Jazz on the East Coast. And I want to start with the big event that happens each and every Thursday night. It's called the Thursday Night Jazz Party, and it happens at Basil Bar and Grill, located at 422 Delaware Avenue, right here in the jazz capital of the world, Wilmington, Delaware. Now, every Thursday night, we bring some of the best musicians together, and we party all night long, starting at 8 o'clock until 11. Your host for that Thursday night jazz party is yours truly. So, if you are in the tri-state area, come on by the Basil Bar and Grill. Once again, the address is 422 Delaware Avenue in Wilmington, Delaware. Also, ladies and gentlemen, each and every Friday and Saturday night, you can catch some of the best jazz in the world. It all happens at the Nomad Jazz Bar. Now, the Nomad is located at 905 North Orange, right here in Wilmington, Delaware. You can find out what's happening at the Nomad by calling area code 302 and the number 655-8800. There's always some hot jazz happening at the Nomad right here in Wilmington, Delaware. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you want some jazz on a Sunday afternoon, well, each and every Sunday, it's the world famous Jazz Brunch happening at Warm Daddy's in Philadelphia. That address for Warm Daddy's is 1400 Columbus Avenue. The food at Warm Daddy's is always delicious, and the jazz is out of sight. Once again, that's Warm Daddy's. You can reach them for events and showtimes at area code 215 and the number 462-2000. And if you want some jazz on the radio, my friend Farnay is on the radio every Monday morning from 2 a.m. until 5 for all of you nocturnal jazz heads. Check out Farnay as she jams all the best straight-ahead jazz on WPFW, which is 89.3 FM out of Washington, D.C. The best thing about Farnay, you can listen to her anywhere in the world by logging on to WPFW.org. And if you're looking for some jazz in the tri-state area on Monday night, you got to check out the Tony Williams Jazz Jam. And that happens at the La Rose Social Club. And their address, 5531 Germantown Avenue in Philadelphia. Tony Williams starts every Monday at 6 p.m. And ladies and gentlemen, for all of you jazz lovers in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta has a hot jazz spot called Cafe 290. Every Sunday afternoon, they have what they call their Sunday Afternoon Jazz All-Star Jam. For more information, you can call Cafe 290 at area code 404 and the number 256-3942. And when you talk about jazz on the East Coast, you can't forget about New York. New York has a wonderful jazz club, and it's called the Town Hall Jazz Club. How appropriate. They're located at 131 West 3rd in New York. You can reach the Town Hall Jazz Club at 212 and the number 475-8592. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, for all the jazz events from Los Angeles to New York, just log on to the website, which is jazzonmymind.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for tonight's live performance? Put your hands together and let's welcome Mr. Jim Holton on keyboards, Eddie Jones on drums, and our vocalist supreme, the one and only Lynda Selena Smalls. Here is the Jane Doe Experience on Jazz on My Mind.
Catch up all my cares and woes. Here I go, singing low. Bye, bye, blackbird. When somebody waits for me, sugar sweet and so is he. Bye, 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 blackbird. No one here can love or understand me. Oh, what Harlem stories they all had me. Pack my bags and light the night. Mama's coming home late tonight. Blackbird. Bye-bye. Jim Holt, ladies and gentlemen. Pack up all my cares and woes, here I go singing low. Bye-bye, blackbird. When somebody waits for me, sugar sweet and so is he. Bye-bye, bye-bye, blackbird. No one here can love or understand me. Oh, what harlot stories they all had me. Pack my bags and light the light. Mama's coming home late tonight. Blackbird, oh, blackbird, oh, blackbird, mama. Thank you. All right. Here's when we'll resurrect. It's getting a little chilly, so I felt comfortable doing this. My funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart. Your looks are laughable, unphotographable, yet you're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth just a little weak? When you open it to speak. Oh, you smile, but don't change one hair for me. Not if you care for me. Stay, call me Valentine. Stay. Each day is Valentine Day. Less than Greek, Is your mouth just a little weak when you open it to speak? Each day is Valentine. Every day is Valentine. Each day is Valentine's Day. Thank you. All right, now for the sexy. This is the sexiest song ever written, ever. Okay? The one that's coming up. Hold on to your seats. Thank you. My boy's bad, you know. Got Reverend Jim over here. Deacon Edward, you know. We're just going to have a little church up in here. It's not the pale moon that excites me, oh, that thrills and delights me. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. Isn't your sweet conversation that brings this sensation? Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. I'm in your arms and I hold you so close to me. All my wildest dreams, they do come true. I need no soft lights to enchant me. If you'd only grant me the right to hold you ever so tight. The nearness of you. When I'm in your arms, baby, Jim Holton, and I hold you so close, oh, so close to me. Oh, my wildest dreams come true. I need no soft light to enchant me. Oh, if you'd only grant me the right to hold you ever so tight, and to feel in the night sun, baby, the nearness of you. Thank you.
Great job. Gentlemen, come on down. Eddie, come on down, Jim. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them another big round of applause. The Jane Doe Experience. Man, that was absolutely out of sight. Woo. Love that jazz. Are you going to be appearing anywhere?
We'll be everywhere.
Everywhere.
Do you have a website where any of our viewers can watch you or keep up with you?
2 or 3. The JaneDoeExperience.com.
Okay.
And
JimHoltonMusic.com, and I'm also Jim Holton on Facebook too.
All right.
we're all on Facebook. Right?
Beautiful. You guys got to reach out to Jazz on My Mind and become Facebook friends.
Sounds good.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Holton on keyboards and Eddie Jones on drums and Lynda Selena Smalls, the Jane Doe Experience. Let's give them another big round of applause. Thank you guys for coming up. Gentlemen, let's give Larry Williams and also my good friend Steve Leech on in here, guys. Come on in here. Ladies and gentlemen, while we're getting in position, I want to remind you, be sure to join us next week as we will spotlight a tremendous jazz group. In fact, they're a wonderful collection of jazz musicians. Manifest 3, featuring Dennis Fortune. We're going to spotlight them next week with several of their video performances they did here in Wilmington at the Christina Cultural Arts Center a couple of months ago. It's going to be an out-of-sight jazz show, so make sure you join us next week. Also, ladies and gentlemen, for more jazz entertainment, check out our jazz website, which is jazzonmymind.com. Log on and become a member to the jazz site so you can do your part in keeping jazz alive. You can also like us on Facebook. I'd like to thank our crew tonight. I'd like to thank Ashley, our camera person, also Vincent Atkins, and I got to admit, it's good to have my daughter Alicia back on camera 1. Thank you, sweetheart. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Steve Leech, WVUD, my man Saxophone Extreme, Mr. Larry Williams, and also the Jane Doe Experience, I'm Richard Blackwell, and we want to thank you for watching Jazz on My Mind.